Hello, everyone, and welcome to the AFC West Division Preview for the 2024 NFL season. I'm Alex, and I'll guide you to what is the final division in my series of division previews for the upcoming NFL season. This is an interesting division for the sole fact that it feels like the most lopsided division. It feels like it's become the new AFC East. So, I think we all know where this is going. I don't think we need to, organize more pageantry and whatnot. So let's just jump right in. We're going to start with a team that's going into 2024 in a very interesting way. A lot of talk about this team in different ways than some of the other teams that drafted a quarterback in the first round this past draft. Bo Nix is going to get the starting role, and he looked good in the preseason. A lot of people are expecting Denver to not be as bad as we thought they were going to be, as in, 4 or 5 wins. Some people are, thinking they might sneak in and maybe potentially get towards a winning record, be a little better than that, kind of be a bridge year. But they got a good thing going here in Denver. But it really relies on Bo Nix, and that's what the talking point is. Everyone is really excited about Bo Nix, and I think the big thing for Denver as well, if Bo Nix wants to succeed, Tim Patrick needs to stay healthy. What has he missed the last 2 years, 2 full seasons due to injury? It's just really brutal. So you hate to see that to happen to anyone. So hoping that Tim Patrick can play for a good portion, if not all, of this season. Courtland Sutton as well. Hopefully he can stick around, because when he played last season, he had some spectacular circus catches. Very underrated receiver, in my opinion. I really like Courtland Sutton. And then they picked up Josh Reynolds from Detroit. So Bo Nix has a pretty decent receiving core. Of course, they also have Marvin Mims as well. So they've got a receiving core that can help Bo Nix out. And so I'm really interested to see what this team can do this year. They just signed Pat Surtain to that big deal. But he's obviously the biggest star on this defense. I think the biggest reason this defense is going to even be somewhat notable. Because I just don't know if I trust the rest of this defense. I think it reflects in their schedule. Yes, I said that everyone's starting to think that maybe the Broncos aren't going to be, 4-13, 5-12. I think it's going to stick around that mark. I think that's a healthy expectation for the Broncos this season. If they get to 6 wins, yeah, okay, but if they get to 7 or 8 wins, that's going to be, in my eyes, would be a pretty successful season for the Broncos. They get a couple. They get Carolina. I have them beating Tampa Bay on the road. I have them splitting with both Vegas and LA, and then of course beating Cleveland. I have another example of how inconsistent I feel like Cleveland's going to be this year. But they get it. It's not the end of the world. Their schedule's not super brutal. Of course, they have the back-to-back weeks in the middle there where they're going at Baltimore, then at Kansas City. That's not going to be fun. But you got Carolina right before that, and you got Atlanta right after that. 2 games you could possibly win. So I'm thinking 5 wins for the Broncos here. I'm not super bullish on Bo Nix yet. But again, I feel like his situation is more of the pieces aren't quite there. I don't trust the defense as much as I think that he could possibly elevate the passing offense, and he's got a good couple receivers. But I still don't think it's going to translate to a ton of wins for Denver this year. I feel like they'll take a step back from what they had last year. They get to 8 wins. I think that's a fair ceiling to set, but not a massive fan of the Broncos have got going on this year. I have just 5 wins for the Broncos. The time is finally here. We're going out to Kansas City, and we're going to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. The reigning, defending, back-to-back Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. They're looking to become the first team to ever three-peat in the Super Bowl era. The only time we've ever seen a three-peat in the championship or Super Bowl era was when Green Bay won the last 2 NFL championships and the first 2 Super Bowls. Whether that counts as a three-peat in your eyes or not, I don't know, but I can tell you this for certain. No team has ever three-peated in the Super Bowl era. Could the Chiefs do so? There's a chance. There really is a chance. Of course, you still have Mahomes and Kelsey there, but Pacheco's been a good running back. He's come up and stepped up and become a good, solid running back. They picked up Marquise Brown, though he will be out to start the season. Rashee Rice's situation and status is all kind of hanging in the balance. We'll see what happens after his incident in the offseason. And they drafted the fastest receiver in the draft in Xavier Worthy. But it was that defense that won them the Super Bowl last season. They lose L'Jarius Sneed to Tennessee, which stinks. They still have Trent McDuffie. They still have Chris Jones. And the rest of that defense is just a good unit. They're a good, solid team unit. And if they play the way like they did last year, they could be right back in the mix for the conversation of the Lombardi Trophy and for the first ever three-peat in Super Bowl history. Yeah, I think they're going to be pretty good this year. I think it's fair to expect from this team. I think 13 wins for the Chiefs. I think they lose this opening game against Baltimore. I think they lose that game on the road against Buffalo. I think they lose that game on the road against San Francisco. 3 revenge games for those 3 teams from this past season. I think they all get the Chiefs, but no one else can except for Houston. I feel like in Houston's back-to-back weeks where they play Kansas City and Baltimore towards the end of the season, I feel like they're going to win one of those 2 games. I think they beat the Chiefs. But I think that there's a lot. They are public enemy number 1 in the NFL because they've won back-to-back titles. 3 titles in the last 5 years. Potentially trying to make it 4 in the last 6. I think it's just going to be really interesting to see how some of these teams prepare for Kansas City, because one of the biggest problems, especially with Baltimore, is they just forgot how to run the ball when they played Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. How are these teams going to change up their game plan to face Mahomes and the Chiefs, and how are they going to adjust? Or are they just going to stick to their kind of typical play style, and will it benefit them? Who knows? I have no idea. But regardless, I know the Chiefs are going to be a really good football team again this year. L'Jarius Sneed, losing him was pretty brutal. But they got Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy to help them out on the offensive side of the ball to kind of neutralize that. And I think they're going to be a really good team this year. Again, as much as lots of NFL fans do not want to hear this, I think they're going to be really good again. It's hard to pick against Patrick Mahomes, man. It really is. But I don't think there is no world where Kansas City finishes lower than 10 wins. They're going to win 10 games. This is a given. It's probably the easiest prediction you can make this season. But yeah, Kansas City wins 13 this year. Moving on to the Chargers from not San Diego. And they're in a bit of an interesting spot. They lost a couple of big offensive weapons this year, but they brought in a great head coach in Jim Harbaugh, who really has done nothing but succeed in the NFL. He hasn't quite gotten to a Lombardi Trophy yet. He made it to a Super Bowl with the Niners, but the turnaround that he made with the Niners when he came in to the NFL the first time, that transformation was night and day. Can he do the same with the LA Chargers? It's going to be a bit tougher. Justin Herbert's still the quarterback, but a lot of people, kind of similar to what Buffalo is going through right now, a lot of people really don't like the Chargers receiving core. And having Quentin Johnston as the number 1 receiver is a bit concerning, considering how he struggled last season. You're really hoping he does not have those types of struggles again this upcoming season. You got J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. They get both those running backs from Baltimore. You hope that both of them can stay healthy. But it's the interesting thing for me is that defense. How is the defense going to play? Because Jim Harbaugh's a defensive coach. And that defense was good last season. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa on the line in that front seven is just lethal. Then you have Derwin James and Asante Samuel Jr. in the backfield. I mean, it is... I like what they've got going with some of these pieces on the defensive side of the ball. Will it translate to a night and day transformation for this Chargers team? I think somewhat. I originally had them placed closer towards their ceiling, maybe even in a playoff spot. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt like they would lose one or two of these games that just they really didn't need to. So I feel like they're going to be a couple of those games that the Chargers have been losing these last handful of years, like just playing down to competition, and not only that, but losing to inferior competition. I feel like that's going to be their downfall this season because they do have the schedule to go out and win 10 games. I have them at 8 wins here, but I have them losing to both Arizona and New England. I think that's you win those 2 games, you're up to 10 wins already. I have them also losing to the Titans. That's 11 wins right there. But I do also have them beating Cincinnati and Atlanta, 2 teams who I have already winning 10 games. So that kind of neutralizes itself out a little bit. But I think they get off to an all right start with their schedule. I think they have a nice little middle section of the year, but a couple of those losses, that loss against New England, I think is going to bite them real bad. But I think they could possibly get up to 11 wins if everything goes right here in LA. And, if things fall flat, I think the LA Chargers could fall down and kind of finish exactly where they were last year at 5 wins. I've got 8 wins for the LA Chargers this year. We'll see what happens. We've finally made it. There's only one team left that I have not talked about, and it's time to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders, who I think are the epitome of great defense, suspect offense, and it's going to really hurt them this year, I think. I really like that defense. Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins they got from Miami on the defensive line. Woo, baby. Divine Diablo and Robert Spillane in the linebacking core. And I like that secondary unit a good amount. Jack Jones had a good season last year. But I'm really interested to see what this offense is going to do. You got Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers as 2 receivers for Gardner Minshew. Brock Bowers, the rookie tight end. I'm not completely sold on this running back room. I don't know. There are certain things about this team that I kind of like. But I have a feeling that it's just going to not go their way. I feel like they'll keep it close for most of the game. Maybe be losing by 3 points, 7 points. And by the time that the defense gets tired and starts surrendering some bigger plays and some more yards and more points, the offense isn't going to be able to recover and keep pace. So what I think is going to happen is the Raiders are not going to be a very good football team this year. I really don't like their situation. I think they did a couple wins early on in the year, but they're going to run into this tough break in the schedule in the middle, which is going to just... I think it's more just their schedule to me. I look at each individual game. I'm like, yeah, I don't trust them to win that game. Yeah, I don't trust them to win that game. I don't think they're going to win that game. I don't think they're going to upset this team. It's unfortunate because I think the team is better on paper than 4 wins. I think it's their floor. But, it's just tough. I just look at every individual game. I'm like, no. But if things go right, Gardner Minshew able to replicate what he did in Indianapolis last year, and that defense is able to play as advertised and be able to play the way they want, and they can control football games, there's a good chance that the Raiders could have a winning record this season. But I just haven't been able to just, I guess, bite the bullet and be like, yep, they're going to win that game. They can win that game. Like, they very well could beat, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, Jacksonville, Denver twice. They could beat Cleveland. They could beat Pittsburgh. They could win a lot of these games. I just don't see it happening that way this year. Unfortunately, it's just 4 wins for the Las Vegas Raiders this year. And finally, let's take a look at the division standings. What a surprise! Kansas City wins the division yet again. And yet again, they're the only team in this division to make the playoffs. They're going to get the number 2 seed. I think that loss in week 1 on opening night, which as of the day that I'm uploading this video will be tonight. I think that's going to determine who gets the 1 seed and home field advantage throughout the NFL playoffs. I think the Chargers will do some good things, but I don't think they're 1 year away from really competing for a playoff spot. Denver, I feel like maybe in a certain similar, I think maybe all 3 of these teams may be in a similar situation. The Broncos and the Raiders could overperform from where I have them at easily, but they could also just as easily be exactly where I have them sitting right here. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch the other 3 teams in this division all fight to see if they can bring some hope to their fans and to the rest of the NFL that someone can finally dethrone the Chiefs as AFC West champions. The AFC West, who do you think wins? Do you think it's just Kansas City again and there's no other chance any of these other 3 teams? Or are you going ballsy and picking someone else? If so, who are you picking to win the AFC West? Please give this video a like. Please subscribe to my channel if you like these division previews and want to see more general NFL content from me. And, yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. NFL season just around the corner. Boy, I cannot wait. Have a great day, guys. See ya.